What are the most important fundamentals for teaching young children? Is it even appropriate to teach young children music lessons or voice lessons? Let's jump right in. So to address the first topic, is it appropriate to have music lessons at a young age? I personally think absolutely. There are certainly things that mature later, and there are certainly things that pedagogically can be established later and more appropriate for later. However, there are so many things that children can learn at a young age, especially if you can expose them to certain music and certain ideologies and certain techniques at an early age. Like, bam, their progress is going to be through the roof later on. So let's talk about having a voice student. I'm saying maybe ages around 5 through 10. These are things that I think are really important to establish and set the fundamentals for. So first, obviously, matching pitch. A lot of times I will do oral training, ear training, and I will play certain pitches and then I'll have them sing it on a syllable. So like la, la, la. And then we'll work with establishing more of an ear, and I'll give them direct feedback like, yes, that was exactly the pitch, or that was a little bit too high, or a little too low. Sometimes I'll use hand signals to go up or down and help them develop an ear. And so first I'll give them direct feedback, but then I will help them create more of an ear by saying, what do you think? Was that too high or too low? Do you need to go higher or lower? And help them establish that ear for themselves. Then I also think that having sheet music printed out, I know everything is online right now and there are so many wonderful things, but there's something really magical about having sheet music in front of you and being able to know how it goes, and when you see things, to be able to actually feel like you have something tangible instead of looking at a screen for that. And so I like to have my students still have their music printed out, and I will tell them different things to make notes in the music. So if you have a young student, I kind of train them how to do this as I do it with them. So I'll have their music and I'll say, okay, now we're going to take a breath. We need to take a breath right here. And so if you look, and even if they can't read, I will explain to them, I'll say, okay, these are the words that you're singing. And then right here, that's the point where we're going to take a breath. And then to make a breath, we make this little mark here. And that's what that means. And so anytime that you have somebody that tells you to take a breath, you'll find in your music where that's supposed to be. And then next time, as you're looking at your music, you can see, oh, I'm supposed to take a breath there. And it's very, very helpful for them. And I think it's very helpful visually as well, instead of just screen, but to actually see on the paper, this. Another thing that I think is really important when starting out for voice students is having a notebook. This is something that I like to have for myself, but I like them to have, and they can bring a fun little notebook or put stickers on it or color it or design or make their artwork or create whatever. They can be creative with it, but they have a notebook that they bring every single lesson. And then in that lesson, I will say, okay, write down this. I'll make the date. I'll say, these are the things that I want you to work on. And I will write them down for them if they can't write. But then as time goes on, I like to encourage them to start taking over that responsibility of, I will tell them what to do, what to work on next week. And then they will write these things in their notebook and bring it. And then when they're gone, and throughout their whole week, they'll be able to open their notebook and say, okay, what was I supposed to do? And it helps them stay more accountable. It's also good for parents to see when things are written down in notebooks. It's also good for parents to see, and it helps parents keep them accountable for their practicing as well, which is really, really important, because as we all know, if parents are not on board for practicing, things can really progress at a very much slower pace, and if at all even, right? You know what I'm talking about, voice teachers. Another thing that I think is really, really important is solfege of just starting, just take sound of music, right? And help them learn the basic do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And then sometimes I like to do cadences like do, mi, sol, mi, do, fa, la, fa, do, mi, sol, mi, do, ti, re, sol, re, ti, do, mi, sol, mi, do. Not recommended for when they're first starting out, but a lot of times we will do something like sol, fa, mi, re, do, or sol, 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 fa, mi, re, do. Different exercises like that are really helpful. So you can kind of gauge if they're really struggling with something like that, then maybe just do, or do, re, mi, re, do, or something like that to simplify it, and then give them little chunks. This is an important piece of information. When you're teaching young children, they can only handle like that much at one time, and you can always make it bigger. But if you feel like you as a teacher are getting frustrated, there's probably some things like you could give them a smaller piece of information or just chunk it down a little bit less, because sometimes they're trying to connect the synapses and work through everything, but it's just too much and it can be overwhelming, and then it doesn't click, it doesn't connect. So keep that in mind as well. But ideally for solfege, the most important thing would be for them to be able to do the scale up and then back down. And then I actually have a solfege challenge that you can see is linked here. And that is something that I think is really, really helpful for students that want to be able to work on their sight reading skills or just open up a piece of music and know how it goes. This is one of the fundamental building blocks to that. So I like to teach the solfege challenge is what we call it, and I work with all of my students on that. So if that is of interest, please check that one out. And then last but not least, theory. Sometimes I see teachers that are teaching young children and they're mostly teaching them by ear, and so they're not really looking at the music, and it's great for them to develop ear training skills. However, I think it's very, very important for them to start identifying things, looking at whole notes, half notes, and saying, okay, this is what this means, this is what kind of note it is, this is how many beats it gets, and starting to ingrain those facts into their memory just at the basic level, and not getting it crazy complicated into time signatures, because most of the time they're not ready for something like that. But just saying quarter note, and then can you find a quarter note in your sheet music, which you have right in front of your face as you're looking at that. Oh, that's what a quarter note means, and a quarter note means one beat as you do that. And so just trying to connect, because music can be super overwhelming, and so a lot of times we'll just connect the gaps for them, and that really helps. So hopefully that's helpful. Good luck teaching all your young, amazing, talented students. I want you to imagine what it would be like if you had so much focus, so much zen, so much peace, so much calmness, and so much excitement at the same time before a performance. As in, like, you're not getting in your head, you're not freaking out, you're not becoming a basket case, or you're not a hot mess. So if you feel like sometimes that is you, imagine what it would feel like if that wasn't the case, if that wasn't a problem anymore. It would be pretty awesome, right? So what is the first step to that? Working with your mindset. So if this is something that's of interest to you, I recommend going to stopcaringwhattheythink.com. If you're a performer and you want to have more confidence, if you want to get out of your head, these are tips and tricks that I'm offering to you for free. It's a free resource that can help you have more confidence, to manage that anxiety, and just to feel like you can enjoy life again. You can enjoy performing. That's what it's all about, right? So stopcaringwhattheythink.com. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned something. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. I post new videos every Wednesday and a new podcast every Friday. Thanks.